tall, gangly thing?
Hello and welcome to High Roll Radio episode number 6. My name is Nick DePasquale. You may also know me as Gangly, and this is a live Teamfight Tactics call-in show where you, the viewer, are just as much a part of the show as the rest of us. And speaking of the rest of us, today I'm joined by two very special guests. It's Ramkev and Kardax. Thank you both for being here. Ramkev, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good start of the week. I just hit Masters, so.
How many games?
A lot. I haven't been counting, but a lot.
Kardax, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's like really late here. It's like 3 a.m. But I'm up. I'm awake. I'm feeling good, and I'm ready. I've been playing a lot of TFT. I've been like juggling in and out of like D1, D2, but I'll hit Masters tomorrow morning. Okay, it's lit.
Yeah, the beginning of every set, it's so insane. The amount of games that are played in the first weekend of each set. There are people who have more games in this first weekend than I had in 6.5. Just the amount of even like knowledge that's kind of compressed into the first weekend because everyone's discovering things for the first time. It's like the largest knowledge jump we'll see like the entire set, right? I think that's pretty fair to say.
Yeah, sure.
So before we go on and talk about a couple of things, let me explain how this show works. So for everyone who is joining us live, like I said, this is a live call-in show where you can actually join us, give your hot takes, your opinions, your questions, and we'll talk about it with you. So if you're in the Discord chat, or if you're in the Twitch chat right now, I'm going to type in the command !Discord. Once I do that, the Discord link to my Discord will pop up. Go into there, and on the left-hand side, you'll see the submit takes topic. Go in there, give your opinion, your question, whatever it may be, and then go into the waiting room and mute yourself. If we like your take, we want to bring you onto the show, we'll bring you in for a quick mic check, and after that goes through, we'll bring you on, we'll talk with you. Now, there's a lot to talk about. I feel like the first thing, it's probably fair to just kind of talk about first impressions of the set. Before we get into any nitty-gritty things, let's just talk about set 7. Kardax, I feel I'd like to hear from you a little bit. I mean, did you play a lot of PBE? What are your first thoughts like so far?
Going into PBE, I was really nervous with the concept of like dragons and like it having like very reminiscent of like Colossus and like taking 2 spots on my board all the time. And I was like really nervous about that concept. I was like, oh no, not Colossus all over again. But upon like playing a couple of PBE games, I started like really getting into it. And I was like, oh, this actually doesn't feel that bad at all. Actually, it feels really good. And it was really fun. I played like the entirety of PBE. I played like 10 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
With a bunch of friends and a bunch of in-houses and a bunch of people. It was a lot of fun. PBE was a lot of fun for sure. There's a lot of like really game-breaking things. But it's PBE. You can't really complain. And then it hit live, and live was pretty good as well, apart from like Nami. But then it got fixed.
Lit.
And I think we're in a good spot right now, actually. Yeah.
Kevin, what about you? How are you feeling so far on it?
Oh yeah, I've been having fun. I think I just been playing mostly AP stuff because I like to slam Archangels and put it on like any unit that I can. But
you know who uses Archangels really well?
Lilia. Yeah.
It was a setup.
It was a setup. We were being set up. But yeah, I mean, like I really like all of the dragons. I think like all of the legendary units at least, and all of the dragons feel like really nice to play. Because like coming off of so there are moments in PvE. I'm really glad that they got this worked out by the time I got to the live. But a lot of the dragons actually felt like hot trash. Like on release, I think Deja was one of them. Deja was like completely just a complete synergy bot. Had 0.6 attack speed, by the way, and just like could not do damage. I remember like Asol also was like a. You never play Asol, but they ended up doing like some necessary adjustments, and I feel like, especially the dragons, I feel like they're all really fun to play. I think Ao Shen is probably like one of my favorite units. I think that the Ao Shen ult is like super satisfying, but they're all really cool. And and even just like the vanilla legendary is like Zoe is probably like my most played unit this set, I think, and she's like, I think she's like.
Wait, is it a
cool.
Bard?
It's
It has to be
actually
Bard.
I play Zoe over Bard. I think Zoe.
There's no way you play Zoe over Bard.
Oh,
How?
maybe if I don't have 3 mage active, but I always try to get 3
No.
mage active. If I need mana gen, you know, like even if you're playing Ao Shen, even if I'm playing Ao Shen, I'll try to get Zoe in because you can do
Zoe
like
Silas Nami.
Zoe
Yeah, I
Silas
do that all the
Nami or something
time.
Like
Yeah.
you get the mage synergy in because then it's like oh my god, when you have mage synergy for Zoe, it's so nuts. It's so crazy.
It's pretty good. I agree.
One thing when I played my first PvE game, I didn't really play PvE until like way later. But when I played my first PvE game, it was basically right before release, where everyone's just playing like Mage Aesol. Like every single game, everyone's trying to play Mage Aesol.
Oh yeah.
And my
that
first
was
game,
the
it's
point.
literally like I'm watching the top 2 between 2 Mage Aesol players, and it's like the one board has like Bard, Anivia, Mage Aesol, and the other board has like Mage Aesol, Anivia, probably a Bard, whatever, and it's literally just circles. The entire board is circles of different colors, and it was actually, I played that game and came out of it thinking, this is going to be a really, really bad set to watch. Like, if this is what we're in store for, like, I don't want to watch this.
I love the Aesol.
Oh,
Like,
it's so confusing.
when there's the huge circle, the best part is when Aesol dies, the damage doesn't proc, right? So you're just waiting there for it to like disappear, and if your Aesol is still alive at the end of the fight, it just like pops, and everything disappears. But if not, it's like the most dissatisfying thing of all time.
It is really satisfying to play. Absolutely.
I will say, apart from Mage Aesol, though, I actually think that the ultimates feel really cool in this set. Like, I think Ao Shen in particular is so sick. Like, when you actually see it go off, I'm imagining like being a new player and watching that ultimate go off for the first time would like blow your mind.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, there are very few units that when you're playing against it, you're like scared that its ult is gonna go off, right? Or like in the history of TFT, but like when that happens, that's when you know that the unit is like really satisfying. Because like GP ult, for example, if you're up against like a decap GA GP from set 3, you're just praying that thing doesn't kill your whole team.
That's true, yeah.
And it's sort of similar here.
I'm trying to think of like what are all the examples of those units. I mean, Victor is like one of them, but even then, I actually feel like
Victor's like I feel like a little less.
Like, there's a world where Victor goes off and like nothing
there's a lot
happens.
of shields in set 6.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of shields in set 6. It was so frustrating to play.
But you're right.
Maybe like
against.
Yeah.
GP is like a time bomb, right? Ao Shen, I would also say, feels like a time bomb. Like, the whole fight, like, I'm ignoring every single unit on my board, and I'm just watching that mana bar, and I'm just praying it doesn't fill up.
Yeah, or maybe a good one is like Set from set 4 after he's come back from doing the push-ups.
Yeah.
Because that guy would just come in and kill your whole board, but that was like, you know, that was a whole thing, right? Because he'd have to take damage, go do sit-ups, your board would have to stall long enough where you could get back to full health, and then you could come back and do true damage.
I think Set was like one of the best 5-cost designs of like all time. Set was really cool. Like, seeing him do the push-ups, come back, Super Saiyan mode, slam dunk something into the enemy team and just one-shot things. That thing was really satisfying to play. And I'm sad we haven't, like, you know, had like such a high impact 5-cost like that in a while. But this set, these 5-costs feel really good to play again. For a while, we went through like a dry spell, like having 5-costs be like completely useless, like in set 5 and like 6. I feel like this set, it really brings back like flexibility in 5-costs, and like you get rewarded for like playing a 5-cost now. You can actually run the Yasuo as a carry. You can run like Ao Shen and Aesol as carries, and it feels really good to play. It's just such a delight to like have this like feeling back, because I've been missing it for so long. Like, for me, this is a hot take, but I'm not trying to drop a lot of hot takes today, but 4.5 was like the best set we've ever had. Up until now, I think set 7 might just take the cake. This is a really good launch. It's a really fun set. To me, so far, so good. Set 7 might just take the cake for best set of all time, in my opinion.
I feel like, because people have a mixed like like mixed reviews on 4.5. I also am of the opinion that it was a really, really good set. I mean, I know like Slayers kind of ran rampant for quite a while, but I genuinely felt like
Dax loves Slayers.
Yeah,
he was a big Slayers.
Well, I feel
fan.
like thematically, like there are certain types of comps that certain people just love to play. Like for me, like it kind of started in set 2 with like playing the Berserkers. Like I just wanted these big, beefy units to just like go up and like beat the crap out of the other board. Like, and 4.5 had Slayers, but also had Bruisers, Brawlers. What was the Shyvana carry? What was the thing?
It's the Bruisers.
Yeah, it was
whatever
Good
the
comp.
health synergy was. Like 4.5 actually had a lot of comps that I felt like thematically fit what I wanted to play. That was really cool, and I actually feel like set 7 has that as well. Where for me,
you
got Olaf
have
back,
Siphon.
you got Siphon, like you have like the Bruiser carry, you've got Cav, you got Shio Yu. Yeah. No, there's
the real Bruiser carry.
There's a lot of stuff though. I actually feel like thematically, pretty much anyone can go into set 7 and play the kind of comp that they're looking to get out of TFT, and that I feel like is a pretty good metric for success. How do you guys feel about the early meta that's been developed so far? I actually personally feel like it's pretty diverse.
Ramkev?
Oh yeah, I mean it's super diverse. I think I guess the main issue I think at the start of the set was like the Nami thing, right? Everybody, you play Nami 2 and you get a free top 4, and you know that I think that's why they had to do that micro patch at the start of the weekend. But I mean even then, like there were so many comms that just beat Nami, and people just were like
absolutely
not.
It would never go first.
Like, you know, like you could play, for example, like one of my favorites is actually like AD Shio Yu carry, because he would just like face tank any damage, and you wouldn't need QSS, and you would just mow through the entirety of the mage team. But yeah, I mean, and then after that got changed, I think like mages are still very playable. You know, it's not like the micro patch completely gutted them. You know, it's a multi-carry comp, so you know you don't really expect it to do that poorly. But you know, I like the fact that you can play these different comps, and by different comps I mean like you can do 1 cost reroll, you can do 2 cost reroll, 3 cost reroll. You know, standard 4 costs, go for legendaries. That, in my opinion, is like when all of those strategies sort of balance out and you're able to do all of them semi-reliably, that's when I think the game is in a pretty nice state, at least for me, because
I agree.
One of my big sort of gripes about like towards the end of 6.5, you know, I'm not really sure about like the last two patches because I didn't really play those last 2 patches, but like a good portion of 6.5, it felt like they kind of killed off a lot of different play styles. Like they killed off 1 cost reroll completely. The moment that Twitch died, there was no more 1 cost reroll. You could say the same.
It was practically unplayable. Absolutely. Like Twitch was completely unplayable. No reroll was playable. Even Talon didn't even feel like playable anymore. Like I felt like even when I had like the position to like play for Talon, it felt like it was rarely like just the top 4.
Yeah.
Like it was at most I would go 4th.
Yeah, and they like gutted Warwick into the ground, so like that was there goes your 2 cost carry. So you only had 1 like 2 cost carry comp. But like in this set, you know, at least at the beginning you have like the Ezreal carry comp, you can play Set reroll, you can play Nami reroll, you can play like the Sins reroll with a 2 cost, or you can play like Sins with 3 cost. And there's like there's a whole bunch of different comps. Maybe your more niche ones with like either the 3 costs with like the legendary, the legend units. I think that's what the synergy is called. Mm-hmm. So there's like a whole bunch of things that you can do, which I think is great. I think that I honestly hope that if they decide to nerf any of like, for example, the set, I think the set comp is one that's like pretty impressive right now. But I hope that if they decide to nerf any of those comps, that they don't decide to make it completely like unplayable. Is my hope, because I think that as long as it's good to keep that kind of diversity in the game, as long as it's not like, the Nami thing was a problem, right? Because you would have
absolutely.
players in a lobby.
There's a thin line between like having everything be playable and good and having something to just be blatantly broken. I think having like a lot of different comps, be able to go top 4 is really good for the game. A bunch of reroll, a bunch of like fast 8s and like roll for your forecast, a bunch of like people going fast 9, playing for their Aoshin or whatever. It's really, really cool to like have especially right now, at the beginning of the set, nothing feels like too overwhelming right now. I feel like you can take a lot of different lines and always feel rewarded, and always feel like you can go top 4 for sure from almost any position early game. I'm pretty sure. It just feels really bad when you don't have like any good slammable early items. Like if I don't have a Sunfire or if I don't have a Shiv in like stage 2, I feel like I feel so bad. Man. It's like I feel like I'm about to go the fastest 8th of my life if I don't have a Sunfire or a Shiv by like 2-5 carousel.
So strong. That's the one.
It's very important.
I think
that's the one.
Man, I don't know the last time I've slammed the Morellos actually, or like
no.
Man, that
Morello might just be the least slammed item this set, by the way.
So
it might just be non-existent.
Garbage. It's
because they nerfed it.
Yeah, they nerfed.
Dude, they nerfed it to the ground for no reason. It didn't need that.
Not an item. Just completely.
No, it's not. It's so fake. It's actually fake as fuck.
Especially when you have so many frontline units. Like in the early game, there are so many units that can hold Sunfire.
Kench, Leona, Taric, Sejuani. Dude, you got the nuts. Like, and there's like little to no Morello holders early.
Yeah, I feel like a part of it too is like, well, one, the fact that we have frontline carries in the early game too, like we have Set, but we also have like early slot in frontliners like Sejuani, who just kind of finds her way on like random boards. At Sunfire, it feels like a better item because everybody's clumped up in the middle of the board, like every single stage too. Which, I mean, obviously that's like the whole point of Sunfire. So it feels great right now. How do you guys feel about spatulas this set? Because I know going into it, they talked about how they wanted to make spatulas more, what's the word? Like transformative is maybe the word. I know we saw like crazy things on PB, like Revel anything.
I think the bottom line is like spats are more fun now.
Yeah.
I feel like for set 5 and set 6, they were just not reliable at all. Like if you got a spat, it was always like Chemtech and it was never anything else.
It was always a stat bonus, which that's like...
it was just stats. And now it actually feels like super like game changing. Like I get the assassin spat. I'm playing assassin Olaf, scale scorns in the backline, one-shotting everything, and it feels amazing.
Weird because it's not like assassin spat hasn't been a thing, but that was the one that actually came to mind where Olaf feels like he transforms with an assassin spatula, even though that's such like a traditional spatula we've had in every set. It's the unit design around the spatulas that makes certain comps just feel brand new when you have a spatula on board. Assassin Olaf is one of the coolest comps to play.
Absolutely, hard agree. And it slots right in perfectly into like scale scorn bruisers. You get 2 assassins with a Diana, you get 4 bruisers in, you get 4 scale scorns, and it feels amazing. You just reroll on 7 the entire game. And it's like no one can really stop you if you're playing Assassin Olaf, to be honest. Like that guy just mows down backline like it's nothing. Yeah. He's insane.
Have you guys experimented with any other spatulas? I know, so from what I understand, Revel on PBE was like insane, and it kind of got nerfed a bunch. Is that what it was? Was it Revel that actually, or the interactions?
A specific interaction. There used to be 2 that both had to be sort of adjusted for.
Xayah.
One was Xayah, because Xayah, the way that she is now, it's 1 instance of damage. She pulls back the feathers, and that counts as 1 instance of damage. Before, every single feather counted as an instance of damage. So when you pull in on Revel, every single feather procs a rocket, which is why, they had to change that, because that is like
they had to rework Xayah.
There's no way you can balance for that, right? You'd have to, because like think about it, Xayah could do 0 damage, right? She could do like 0.0001 damage.
Yeah, she could heal the enemy team and still one-shot.
The moment you get a Revel spat, you play Xayah instantly. You don't play her otherwise, right? So they definitely had to like adjust it. And the other one was Anivia, because Anivia is like basically her ult is every half second is a tick of damage. So every half second, procs on every single unit within that circle, right? And they changed it. I think Anivia is now every 1 second. It's like a 1 second tick instead of a half second tick. They also had to do some adjustments on the Revel spat, the Revel damage itself, but
Right.
Oh, Revel Deja still works, by the way.
Yeah, Revel
on every
Deja.
auto.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's a really strong one. I mean, Deja is like, there are so many spats that are really good on Deja. The ones that come to mind are like, the one is Revel. The other one that's really, really good on Deja is Whisper Spat.
Yep.
That one
Hard to
is
agree.
insane because
Makes
you
sense.
just have this unit in the back line just getting infinite damage.
Oh, if you get Dragon Alliance, you can
Oh
play.
my
You can
God, I've gone
play
Dragon
Whisper
Alliance
Spat
with it
Deja
before. Oh my
and
God.
Siphon.
Yeah, I played that. It was such a fast first. It was that
It's insane. Yeah, it's actually insane. Oh, dude, Alliance still feels good after the nerf. How do you feel about Alliance right now and Horde? I feel like they still feel really, really
I
good.
mean, that's because I think because the dragon units are good. Like I personally think the dragon unit, like all of them are really, really good, especially since like, the melee ones all have CC built into their kit, right? You get a free synergy. Like Idis is good.
Gives you a free item.
The 10 costs are all good. So it's like,
Yeah.
the fact that you can play multiple of them on your board is not that bad, especially if they give you free trades. It's, I feel like there's no, the stat, even though they nerf the stats by a lot, I think they recognize the value of being able to just stick a bunch of dragons on your board.
Absolutely.
So I haven't actually seen much of the dragon augments. So how flexible is like building a dragon board? Like I imagine it's got to be relatively cookie cutter, no?
I mean, yeah, the most common one you'll see is like a bunch of dragons and bard, and that's like the most common board you'll see. You can kind of like, because if you play like 3 or I think 3 is kind of like the general.
You're always playing like
Makes
3
sense.
at most. I feel
makes
like
sense.
I usually play 3 or 2. I never play 4. 4 is just way too many, and I'm just gonna get one shot.
Not enough frontline in there. Like you can sort of stick, like for example, if you put in, Shio Yu, you can probably stick in a Nico as well, right? And it just depends on like what you're playing, what you're carrying around. Like if I'm playing Deja, then I might want to get 4 Mirage in, because Deja only puts you at the 3 threshold. If the Mirage is good, if it's something that
it's Deja Yasuo and then plus 2 dragons. It's not that bad.
Yeah, it is cool. I feel like it's obviously an extension of what they introduced with Colossus. I will say my first impression is that this feels way cooler and way more impactful than Colossus, and I'm glad they kept something like this in. I hope they continue in this direction, because Colossus I feel like was cool for the time being, and now like looking back, now that I have dragons, like why would I ever want Colossus?
Yeah, and I think like a good change is the fact that Colossus units you could not CC them. And that
do you
but to be
remember
fair,
the pre-damage nerf Scion, the 3 socialite Scion?
I was just about to say it. Yeah.
Goodness.
But like that in itself leads itself to a lot of kind of potential balancing issues, right? If you have a unit that you can't CC, that has the potential to walk all over your board, for other players that kind of feel like the fact that that's not the case right now, I feel like actually feels better in terms of like
it feels a lot better.
Yeah, like the counterplay. The units actually feel like they have their own niches. They do like very different things. And yeah, I just learned recently, actually. I had a suspicion about this, but somebody confirmed it for me, is that dragons actually do 2 units worth of damage if they survive on the board. So that's the thing that's different.
Oh, you mean player damage?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's
Player
cool.
damage.
Oh, okay.
I love that. That makes sense.
I remember the first time I noticed that, I was like up against this dragon board, and I remember like taking 13 damage, and it's like, how is this possible? They have like 2 units alive. And I had to think about it for a little bit. I was like, oh, yeah, that's probably why.
Right, yeah, Colossus did not do that. So basically, it was like, even if you ever end up playing like wait, I literally can't remember the bruiser Colossus, the mutant. What's his name?
Cho'Gath.
You like play a Cho'Gath stage 2, and you're just like, you're doing no damage, even if you kill everyone without losing something, it's still just like a 3-0 or 4-0, whatever it was at the time. One thing I actually think is pretty interesting, kind of going back to the spatula stuff, is when TFT makes the spatulas have a bit more agency, I feel like they're opting into like riskier balance issues, right? Like so many sets have seen this best comp in the game ends up being the perfect unit with the perfect spatula and the perfect setup for it. And then you end up having to balance the entire game around this very niche scenario. I mean, the blender is like the one that comes to mind, I feel. But
How about Light Zed? How about that one?
Oh,
that was crazy.
You remember
What a
Light
unit.
Zed?
What a
That was
unit.
a menace.
I mean, like another one that was like slightly less. I mean, like even the Zerks in set 2, like the Sin Olaf was like
Yeah.
that was best in slot, right? That was
the mech
by
thing
far
in
best.
set 3.
Demo. Demolition spat.
Yeah.
Demolition or
Okay.
Kaiser?
I
Ooh.
personally feel like it actually is still worth the risk, and I mean,
I
I
agree.
think it's just spatulas in the last 2 sets. Like they really were just so lame. Like it made you feel worse to see to end up with a spatula.
Spatula on the
Yeah.
carousel. Yep. If you got a spatula on Krugs and it wasn't a fawn, you were so mad
Yeah.
about it.
I mean,
You're like,
set
holy,
5,
I hate spat.
Set 5 had some good ones though. You know, Redemption spat. There are a lot of good redemption units. You could get a lot of value out of that spat.
Wait, what's redemption
Oh,
spat?
redeemed.
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 Redeemed
Gotcha,
spat.
gotcha.
You know
Yeah.
the cloak. It was cloak spat, right?
It was
back in
fine.
set
It was
5.
okay. It was mid.
I remember I
You know,
had a random like what's his name? Akshan. I had like a Sin Akshan build one time in Fight Night, and it was garbage. He like just died.
Oh.
It was bad.
Oh yeah. I mean, Sin spat you on like on a Draven, you know. Oh, Sin Draven.
No,
back
I
in set
remember
5.5.
specifically
Oh,
that
yeah.
game was like this is super off topic, but that game was I rolled on 7 and I had 1 Nocturne, 2 Akshans, and a Nico. And I was like, I like, what am I supposed to do here? Like, I open forwarded for Nocturne. So I was like, what? I have no choice.
That was the Sin spat you save for your Fiddlesticks 1, you know? You save
That's the one.
Fiddle 1.
That's true.
That's the one.
Akshan, that guy does nothing.
Oh, no, it was garbage. All right, so I feel like we've talked about set 7 a little bit. All right, now we have a couple options here, actually. Actually, we talked for quite a bit, a little bit longer than I expected us to. One thing, obviously, if anyone's watching right now and you see that Ramkev and Kardax are here, I'm sure you understand the reason that we brought this panel of guests on is to talk about some heavily debated discourse that went about on Twitter over the last week, which was this idea of ladder versus tournament. Kardax got a little bit of heat, I would say, online from a few different sources, and we want to talk about it here. I want to open it up to callers. If you guys have things to say about it, if you have opinions, you want to call in, I'll save it for a little bit. We can talk about it a little bit later because I would love to have someone from the other side of what Kardax was representing call in with an opinion.
I feel like I should just set the stage.
Why don't we go for it? Go for it.
Let me just set the stage. So for those of you who aren't in the know, I made a tweet which I didn't expect to go as viral as it did. I said, basically, I said TFT rank ladder is not an accurate representation of how excellent you are at playing TFT in a highly competitive setting. It is, however, an extremely accurate representation of how good you are at beating people that are worse than you. And so I think what happened here was like a miscommunication between me and everyone else reading it, because everyone else took it as me saying like, if you're good on ladder, you're trash. Ladder is trash. You're all garbage. You're all hot shit. If you don't perform in tourneys, you're fucking garbage. And everyone just took it as that. And honestly, I was like getting heat the entire fucking day. So the catalyst, okay, was Mordog. Okay, I love you, Mordog. I appreciate you. He quote tweeted me, and he said, I'm not supposed to have a stance on this, but yeah, he's right. Oh. And that's what got me all the flame from the entirety of the community. And I just started getting roasted. Like Soju dropped a tweet saying this is the most shit take I've ever heard in my life. Like a bunch of people started roasting me in the comments. I got a bunch of DMs roasting me, and everyone just took it the wrong way. When in fact what I was trying to say is that ladder and tourney are like two different settings. They're two different types of skill sets. And being really good on ladder is definitely a really important skill set, and it's very impressive, and people really respect that when you're like a god at ladder and you just get rank 1. But playing in a tournament is just a very different game, and it's a very different skill set, and you're like under pressure, you're playing for something, everyone's of equal like skill, and you're not just shitting on people that are like worse than you, which ladder tends to be. Yeah,
I mean,
that was
I feel like I'm down to talk about this, and I do just want to say, you know, like I completely agree with what Kardax is saying. Him hitting rank 1 did nothing to prevent him from getting outplaced by me in the boys' tournament, and I feel like there's a lot to read into from there. No, but I actually do think that. All right, the reality is, I think all three of us have kind of a similar take on this. Kevin, You've talked about this for a while, actually, to kind of set the stage going back even further. Set 4.5, I know this has been talked about on like a million different podcasts. If you don't mind, Kevin, I'm just going to like give like a short version of how I saw it from the outside, which was Ramkev was a player who was never really like always rank 1, top of the ladder, blah, 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 but was a player that was constantly using the ladder to learn about the game. And this was brought up most famously, I guess, by Bryce Blum, the caster, who, if you aren't familiar with him, TFT caster, who talked about how Ramkev, despite not being the highest ranked player going into whatever tournament he was entering, had the skills because he was using ladder to learn instead of just using it to climb, where a lot of players use ladder to just climb by abusing the things that they know will work against weaker players. This kind of sparked a lot of conversation. I'm curious, Ramkev, obviously I know that you have a viewpoint of tournament and ladder being different, but on this spectrum of like how valuable ladder is versus tournament, like what are your thoughts there?
So here's, I mean, like, basically to break it down, I think it comes down to two types of arguments, right? There are two sides. One, ladder, the advantage that ladder has is sample size, right? Because you're not going to be able to play, you know, even more than 50 tourney games in a set is like, that's quite a bit, you know? And ladder, you can just boom, 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 50 games in a week, no problem, right? That's 10 games in 5 days. That's nothing, you know? And that's the thing about ladder. Like, that's the benefit to ladder. Nobody is going to argue. I think if anybody tries to argue with you that ladder is somehow, like, the game quality is comparable to a tourney format, they are just on some crazy-ass shit, you know? They're
Exactly.
What they're doing there is they're trying to convince you that ladder matters more because
they're smoking copium,
yeah, they're
dude.
smoking some copium. There's to put it into perspective, anybody that like doesn't really play in high elo ladder, like the chances that you get matched with like 7 other top challengers is essentially 0. And the chances that half of your lobby is a top challenger lobby, that's already like pretty low, especially if like not everybody is playing at that current time. So you're going to get a lot of subpar play, but you can bang out games, right? And that's the like, here's the thing. Like, I don't think that tourney formats are perfect either, right? Like, the other side of the coin is you have higher level competition in a tournament format, but again, the sample size is much lower. When the sample size gets really low, I mean, this is sort of like why I kind of part of why, on a long list of reasons why I stopped playing competitive in set 6, is that I like that tourney format. The tourney formats that I had to experience were like legitimately just coin flips, like 3-game qualification process. That did not make
you got really triggered about it. I made a whole tweet about it.
I got so triggered because like the tournament, like the format was so bad that like it didn't matter what your skill was and how you performed. There were ways that the tournament could make it so that you just don't qualify, right? You could have like an above a 3 average placement, or a below 3 average placement, or close to a 3 average placement. You still might not get through just because of the low sample size.
I mean, I talked about how after the Zone Cup, the best player, the player who had the best average placing in the entire event was Ramkev, who didn't qualify out of day 1. Like the reality, which I think that's a very specific thing that I think Giant Slayer is recognized and is adjusted, which actually we can talk about competitive formats later, because I think that they've kind of foolproofed that so that specific instance should never happen again. But yeah, you're right. Like the reality is formats aren't perfect, and there are going to be certain situations where it does come down to a coin flip and not just like on raw skill expression.
Yeah, and that's not to say that, like, you know, if you hit rank 1 on ladder, you have to be a good player. You can't just be some random Joe Schmo and just be like, oh yeah, I'll just hit rank 1 now. You know, that's not, like, at least from my perspective, like, when I was playing in set 4.5, you know, and I was, like, nowhere close to top 10 for, like, the majority of the set, I think if you know you're good, and you know that, like, you have this game knowledge that is more than other people, you can hit rank 1. You might have to discipline yourself more, and you might have to be like, okay, let me abuse the strong stuff that I know are strong. Let me, like, play those comms. Let me force myself to do that, because that's what I had to do. Because in set 5.5, that's like the first time I hit rank 1. And I legitimately, here's what I did. I just said, don't read chat, don't talk, just hard focus, make sure.
And don't have fun.
Don't have fun. Just like do what I know is strong, and that'll get me rank 1. And it was legitimately, yeah. I just hit rank 1, and that was the end of the story, right?
Yeah, same thing here. 5.5, same exact set. Also same thing. I was just like, okay, no reading chat, just focus, just play every game. Don't have fun. Don't do any for fun shit. Just slam what you know is broken and just play that. And then that's how you do it. You just grind it out. It's just a grind. And I mean, when you compare like ladder to like tourneys in this sense, it's like, okay, I mean, if you're a really good ladder player, sometimes you just you don't make it in tourneys. And that's not your fault. I'm not saying it is anyone's fault. I'm just saying that these are just two very different skill sets. And sometimes, you know, it's just bad RNG. I mean, look at Ramblin', for example. I feel like this guy like back to back, you know, got out of tourney, and I felt like he really deserved it. He really deserved to go through, but it was just really unlucky. So it's just you know, it's the beast that you have to deal with at the end of the day.
Yeah, there's an argument there that, like, according to ladder, Ramblin' is not rank 1 like in North America. He's not a ladder warrior.
He's not.
He's not like the kind of player that really is grinding. And that's more, you know, about like the sample size. But the point of it is, like, as much as you can say tournament is not an accurate representation because of the small sample size, you could also make an argument that ladder is a bad representation because of the large sample size, because it favors the players who are putting in more games, right? But like, so did either of you see Darth Noob's charts that he put up on like who held rank 1 the longest in North America and EU?
Oh,
I haven't.
Yeah, I just
actually
assumed that for NA it's just Setsuko.
Yeah, so it's Setsuko and Dish Soap at numbers 1 and 2, and then after that, there's like a ton of players who most North Americans would not say are in like the top 15 or maybe even like the top 20 or 30 in North America. I mean, I don't know exactly how far it goes down, but like one player, Suba, I've actually never heard that name before, Suba, who held it 4.5 days or something like that. So Suba within like a good, you know, a name everyone knows in North America, but like definitely not like top 15. Noster, I feel like, is even kind of on the line there of how good people really perceive him. Darth Noob, Phoenix, Iloda, Pawn Up, Sma. Like, there's a lot of names there that are on the top of this chart for holding rank 1 the longest, but the reputation doesn't quite match up to like how strong they actually were on ladder. So to me, the way I see it is a lot of people say ladder matters more than tournament, when in reality, I actually feel like what they really believe is that reputation matters more than ladder or tournament, because it's really hard to understand how good a player actually is. And at the end of the day, we are going to default to how good somebody else told us another player is, or how good we think they are based on what we've seen.
Oh, that is so true. Dude, I feel like in TFT, I don't know why, but I feel like when it comes to TFT, especially like pro TFT players, No one watches anyone else. It's like, oh, this guy told me that this guy's good. I believe him. I believe this guy. This guy, he told me Ramkev was a god. Okay, Ramkev's a god. It's lit. Whatever. I'll never watch a Ramkev game in my life, but I'll always regurgitate Ramkev is a god. I feel like this is so rampant in the TFT community. It's insane. Because I unironically actually sit down and watch people play TFT. I like in set 4, the only reason that I actually like started getting good is because I started watching Ramkev. I was like, okay, I actually want to get good at this game. Okay, I need to hit Challenger. I need to hit rank 1. And I just started watching like a bunch of Ramkev. And I was like, okay, this guy's actually good. He's really good. Underdog. He made it to Worlds. I think he got like 3rd. I'm sorry, Ramkev.
Yeah.
Okay, that was your 1st. Okay, you should have won that. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a coin flip on talent.
But it'd be like that sometimes. It is a coin flip. But like, yeah, I mean, for me personally, like it was just like a lot of grinding, a lot of watching, a lot of learning. And I feel like a lot of people just, once they think they're the hot shit, they just don't want to learn anymore. They just stop learning at some point. And I feel like a lot of people do that in TFT. They just get to like a point where they're like, okay, I don't need to learn anymore. I just need to play games and grind it out. When there's like a ton of learning you can do.
But even like, here's a problem with that. Okay, like. There are people obviously who can dedicate full time to TFT, right? We have plenty of streamers, like both of you. I know, like you put a lot of time into TFT. The other side of it is like, if we're gonna put so much focus on ladder, then what we're doing culturally is saying that it's more important to get your games in. Like that in of itself is saying that we're rewarding players who are getting their games in instead of like the rambling scholarly approach, really, where it is like. Fewer games, but I'm taking the time to learn. The reality is not everybody's as good as Ramblin'. And if a player like me, who at best, like I'm like GM, Masters, somewhere around there, like if I were to take the time to put in, let's say I have, I don't know, 100% of like the time I put into TFT, right now I would say it probably is something close to like 80% playing games when I can, 20% actually trying to learn the game because I don't have the time to put in 10 games a day. And if I'm not putting in the number of games, then I'm not going to be able to climb the ranks. And at that point, like I'm always just going to be a Masters player because I don't have the amount of games to put in, but I'm also not taking the time to learn. That's why I
specifically said like TFT pros. Yeah, exactly. That's why I specifically called out like TFT pros specifically because like they're the ones that are always like trying to, reach for rank 1 and like playing tourneys. I feel like a lot of these people just, I feel like in EU it's different. In EU, a lot of people, you're like the thing with EU is that I've noticed being like one of the like 5 English only speakers in like the EU region when it comes to like streaming, is that I've noticed that a lot of people are really tightly knit within their own like communities. So like the French people are all together, the Spanish people are all together, and everyone's got their own like little community going, and they all like learn from each other and they teach each other. They've got their own Discords, their own setup. They all like stream together. And they're it's like this like it's like this insane like hyperbolic chamber of like fucking knowledge when it comes to like TFT and like the EU region, and everyone's just locked in within their own communities and just learning. And it's insane. And I feel like when NA doesn't really have that, looking from like the outside in, I don't really see that happening in like NA, but maybe it does, and maybe I'm just clueless. But yeah, we have a lot of that in EU. That's like the one like variant that I see between like the 2 regions when it comes to like competitive play.
One thing I was kind of thinking about this topic the other day, and the conclusion I kind of came to is I think ladder is a really good metric for the majority of a player's skill, like 95%, something like that. I don't know the actual numbers, but like I think you could judge 90 to 95% of how good a player is. What I mean by that is ladder is a great indication that the 2 of you are better than me, right? Like if I'm a high Masters, low GM player, you can make a very, very safe assumption that it's not because I just don't have enough games in. It's most likely because I'm just not as good as the top challenger players. But I feel like tournament over time is a better indication of like the edge of a player. Personally, I feel like you can kind of get a certain amount of like that last 5%, even in what you might consider like a small sample size. But to me, I feel like I always point to like Appies, who had 73 games over the course of set 6. And of course, that's split up between various patches. But I actually feel like Appy's tournament performance is a really good indicator because it's split up over 70 games across all the sets, that if I had to look at a timeline of set 6 and 6.5, I could basically go into any given patch And based on the amount of games he played over the entire set and had a really, really strong average placement, the odds are is that in any given patch, Appies is probably one of the best players in North America. And it's not like we don't necessarily have all of the information to say that, but because he played the most amount of games out of any North American. And it's still 73 is not that many games, but to me, that's enough to really say that if this player is really just smurfing in tournament over the course of however many months, 4 months, 5 months, the odds are that we can rely on those stats to say that, as a whole, Appies was probably one of the best North American players at any given time. I don't know. It's hard to really make draw a lot of conclusions from tournament, but I do agree that the atmosphere itself, like you guys were talking about before, like the quality of lobbies in of itself are never going to be as strong on ladder as they are in tournament, and you do have to kind of pivot the way you play or have set different expectations for what these lobbies are going to look like. And if you play it
absolutely
like you play it on ladder, I mean, it's probably not going to work.
It's not, and the pressure's on when you're an attorney. You feel the pressure. Everyone's trying to win. And unlike ladder, where like sometimes you're like, oh, this game's an 8th, let me just like fucking cop my 7th and go next. In tourney, you can't just cop your 7th and go next. You need a top 4. You need that. So the pressure's on. You're really trying. Everyone's trying their hardest. Everyone's trying their best. And it's just a different game. TFT in tourney is just a different game than TFT on ladder. It's not the same.
The way that I would put it, like anecdotally, so you'll play against a lot of top challenge. Like if you play against a lot of top challenger players in these ladder lobbies, sometimes you'll see them like hard streaking. I'll be in that lobby and I'll see them hard streaking and I'll look at their board and I'll be like, they don't deserve this. Let me rig a real board and let me take a hot dookie all over their board, and I just never get them into a rotation, right? Because everybody else in that lobby can't build a board that's strong enough to beat that board, so they get away with a free streak. They get free econ. They get to play. They're playing greedy, and this person at the top of the lobby is getting the free LP. They're going next and doing the same thing next game, right? You can't tell me that doesn't happen in like a majority of ladder games. But let's say you're up against 7 other people that are used to doing that, right? 7 other people that say, no, you don't get away with free streak with this garbage board just because you managed to slam items, like slam a couple good items, right? Like somebody's gonna get luckier than you, and if they have the game knowledge to back it up, then you don't get away with your old game plan, right? You don't get to do what you're used to doing on ladder. And that's the thing, is like when you hit rank 1 on ladder, that does not guarantee. I mean, are people going to argue? There's a reason why Setsuko is not rank 1 in the set 6.5 power rankings, even though he held rank 1 for like over half the set, right?
Yeah, it was infinitely.
Like over half the set. If we're gonna put that much weight on ladder, then like why are we not just saying hands down Setsuko is the best player in North America, right? That seems a little bit ridiculous. And it's because you can do well, you can play a bunch of games, you can like abuse these ladder players, but like that's not gonna say anything of. And this is the thing about Dax's point. And when Soju did that response tweet and saying, oh yeah, there are a bunch of rank 1 on demand players, it wasn't really contradicting it. Like there are a whole bunch of players on the NA server that aren't rank 1 that you would probably still put above Setsuko, right? Like I think Appy's Ramblin', at least for the duration of set 6.5, I would not say Setsuko was better than them, right? Or Goobumps, right? Like just because he held rank 1 for that long does not mean that he had this edge over the other players, because it doesn't say anything about how well he will do in a lobby where there are 7 other top challenger players, and that's the thing, right?
Absolutely. Like, and that's not to take away anything from Setsuko either. I've actually watched him play, and I think he's a really great player. I think he's an excellent player, by all means. But when you're in a lobby where your main skill set is just abusing people that are worse than you and doing really well at that, it's just very different than when you're like an attorney and you can't really abuse people that are worse than you. And now you're put in with a group where everyone's like of your skill level and everyone's playing to win. Then like the gears start turning, and then you have to be like, oh shit, well I can't get away with the plan that I play on ladder with. I need a new plan. And if you don't have that plan on demand, well, you're going top 8 because it's just not going to work out. So you have to adapt, you have to change, and when the pressure's on, and and you're playing to win, and you're playing for first, and you're playing for for the world championships, everything's different. Everything's on the line. Your gameplay is different.
Yeah.
The way you approach the game is different. You're scouting every round. You're slamming Zephyr. You're slamming Shroud. You're not greeting your items. You're slamming every item. You're playing as much as you can, as strong as you can, and just trying to cop that top 4 every game.
Yeah.
It's just very different than on ladder.
What I will say on the other, I think this is the thing that sort of the players that are in favor of ladder. I think one of their perceptions is this idea that there are these players, maybe like lower ranked and GM masters, that are just like, they might tell them they might, I imagine that some of these pro ladder players are thinking to themselves that these masters and GM players are like, oh yeah, I'm hard stuck in this elo, but that's just because I'll go to tourney and I'll do well. I think that's sort of their perception of this topic, right?
Their perception of how they feel the argument is going.
Yeah.
But that's far from the truth, right? It's like that's not what we're trying to say at all.
If you will know. I think if you're hard stuck in GM, you're hard stuck masters. I'm still of the opinion that you're not going to do well in tourney. You could get lucky during a tourney, but you are you'll get lucky of time.
One game. You're not getting lucky every game. You're gonna go 8th eventually. You can't luck through TFT. It's really hard to luck your way through TFT. There's so much variance. There's so many decisions. People who say that TFT is like a luck-based game, or it's like 50% luck, is just full of dog shit. It's not even close.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say like there's like maybe like a 10% to 20% like luck factor, and then the rest of it is like how you deal with it. And like I feel like any game you could like top 4 from any early game position, you could probably top 4. It's just a lot of people just don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I feel like especially kind of where we are like compared to 5 sets ago. I think in set 7 and set 6, like we know so much more about the game, and even the way tournaments go nowadays, I would say like the lobbies are just different than they were in set 2. Even like I would say in set 4, where a lot of this really started to come up with like the North American Open brackets, where we had, I forget the person's name. Do you remember their name, Ramkev? The person who made
Otterbear?
Otterbear? Or was it Water or Otter?
Water Bear?
I think it was
it Water
Otterbear.
I think it was Otterbear, but I thought there was also a Water Bear. Wasn't there?
There's like I know a Water Bear. I do know that.
Anyway, it's irrelevant because I want to bring in callers anyway, because we've talked a lot, and
right,
I don't think we actually have any callers regarding ladder versus tournament. So I am just going to go ahead and bring in our first caller who's been waiting for quite a bit. I'm going to bring him in now.
All right.
Nature's BF is here. Nature's, where are you calling from?
Yo, I'm in Minneapolis. What's up?
All right. Well, what do you want to talk about?
So back in set 5 PBE, I did this event, okay, where it was effectively like a closed in-house group. It was an invite only, and to get in, you had to do a buy-in of however much money it was, okay. And over.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You played. This is before I was at Wisdom, by the way, and you played like 20. You could play 20 or more games, and then you got ranked based off of your average placement, and then you got money depending on your placement in there of all the buy-in money, right? And so what I wanted to say is, how cringe is it that Kardax hasn't taken it over the mantle since I used to run this? Like, how has he not taken up the mantle and implemented this himself over a year later?
Wait, so this is like it's almost like a pickup league, right? Like, I feel like that's a pretty good way of looking at what it was. Like, how long did this last for?
The whole 2 weeks of PB.
Yeah, it was the whole 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks of PB. Yeah, was Ramkev in it?
Yeah, I was in it. I remember because that's when the Udyr 3 meme started. Not meme.
Gotcha.
Completely serious strategy of playing Udyr 3 on your board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very serious strat. Absolutely. To answer your question, it's a fuck ton of work, honestly. Streamers are lazy motherfuckers. Let me tell you that right now. Okay,
I was not aware of
TFT
this.
streamers are some of the most lazy motherfuckers you'll ever get to meet in your life. It's not close. All right, it's like TFT streamers and then everyone else. We are so lazy. We want to do the minimal amount of work possible and just grind out 12-hour streams every single day just playing TFT. and that like making a tourney, making buy-in, getting everyone's money, cashing it out, like recording scores. It's just so much fucking work, and I'm getting paid for none of it. It's like it's not worth for me.
Well,
I mean, when you did it, it was really hype. Maybe you should do it again. Thoughts? I'm down to play.
I already do it for my job. I don't need to do it for free now.
imagine
PvE
Nature's
tourney.
probably can't even legally do that. I don't know for sure. I don't know if he can even like say that that's true or not, but it's
Oh, you can just
It's
do
not
like a
a
giant
legal
Slayer
thing,
one, like
but
officially.
it's-
You can just run an official PvE in-house buy-in. Just run an official one. Fuck it.
I will say I do like this idea of there being like cash games or something like that in TFT. I was talking about
It's
this
so much fun.
recently because so actually announcement hasn't actually been announced. I'm gonna put a post up either tonight or tomorrow. But if you live in the tri-state area, I'm hosting a New Jersey TFT event. Going to be a LAN at a local host in North Brunswick. Going to be a 32-person event. Registration is actually open. You can find the information on my Discord. Okay, plug aside. I was talking about this because there aren't a lot of tournaments in TFT where you actually have to buy in. And I almost wish that, well, no, I do wish that it was more culturally acceptable in TFT, that people were used to putting in 20, 30 bucks to enter a tournament just to beef up the prize pool. Because right now we really just kind of rely on the like Riot sponsored events. And I wish there was a bigger like grassroots scene where we as a players are actually filling up the pots.
You know what I will say though? It's really hard to have the buy-in number actually matter to people because, like, think about if you did a $30 buy-in for the 160 player events, right? That actually still, with all those players, it still doesn't match the prize pool, and that prize pool is still thought to be like, you know, incredibly low. So it's actually really hard to have enough buy-ins to make the event feel like the prize pool actually is impactful. I mean, World Series of Poker's buy-ins are $10,000, right? It's like
The problem is that you're talking to Ramkev and I, who are both Melee players, so we're used to
That's true.
we're used to
You
paying
go to
money. And
I
you
think
get
part
nothing.
of it though is like when you, I mean that's not even like you enter a local bracket and you just pay your $5 and you're like, okay, time to play.
I think for Smash it's different because like you're paying for the entire experience as well. You're going in person,
Yeah.
you're meeting the people, it's community, you're sitting down, everyone's cheering, you got your drinks, your peanuts and your shit, and it's just it's a vibe. With TFT, it's like I'm sitting in my bedroom, like fucking picking my nose, playing some fucking video games and like paying $30. It's like bad.
That's true.
I don't
I think
understand.
they like normalize it because I mean even when like COVID hit, I assume online tournaments for Melee are still buy-in, right?
No, actually, a lot of them are free.
They're free?
a lot of
Okay,
them
yeah,
are
well,
free,
there
yeah.
you go, you know, like...
that's a good point.
Ramkev's pivoting to Smash.
yeah, no. I mean, they're both zero buy-in, so, you know. But, yeah, I mean, like, I think a big portion of it is, you know, the buy-in is sort of... I feel like a bit more justified when you sort of do an in-person event. You have things that you're paying for. You have like venue fees.
Absolutely agree.
You know, all of these other resources that have to go into it. Not to say that there aren't resources that go into, you know, hosting an online tournament, but I feel like it's definitely, you know,
It's an experience.
It's an experience to do something in person. Like, you know, when you go to like a major for like an in-person Melee thing, some people are dropping like how much are those getting? It's like $100, right?
Yeah, they're like $100 for like venue plus entry. It's very, very easy to pay that.
Yeah, because like, you know, you're not just paying for, you know, sitting in your chair playing Melee on Slippy. You're sitting there. There are a whole bunch of vendors. You get to meet like all of these kind of. I mean, in those communities, they're like celebrities, right? Like, you know, I feel like if there was a LAN tournament where, you know, the perk was, hey, you get to meet K3 Soju, right? I'm sure there would be plenty of people that would be able to shell out like,
oh yeah,
you know, $50. You say, oh yeah, I'll go to this tournament. I'll play some TFT. I get to meet Soju. I get to meet like, you know, Kiyun, Milk, like all.
Man, I get to meet Ramkev? Oh shit, it's
snap.
time!
Like,
I'll shell $100 for that shit.
That's
Wait,
where
what
like
if we like built a venue in like a central location of the US, like in the Midwest, and we put it in like a public place like a mall.
Like a mall.
What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Nature?
Yeah,
isn't that like a sweet idea that we host tournaments
you gotta get
there?
on that, Nature. You gotta get on that.
Wait, I just don't understand why a mall. That seems like a random choice. I don't understand.
True.
Please elaborate. I don't get it.
One day, I believe in LAN TFT. We're praying for Wisdom to bring us out there one day. Which I will say, shout out to Wisdom for the Wild Rift. Was it the Worlds event?
WNS. It was regionals. It
was regionals for Wild Rift. Congrats to them for using their venue live for the first time.
It was
an awesome event. Very, very much hoping that we can see that in TFT one day. But obviously, we can't squeeze that out of Nature's today. Unless you're willing to give it up. Feel free to leak. I mean, I don't mind.
I'm sure you don't mind. I really appreciate the offer, gang. That's like super, super nice. Yeah.
All right, Natures. Anything else you wanted to talk about while you're still here?
Just you can all expect that Kardax will be running PBE events with buy-ins this upcoming PBE. Look forward to it.
All right. Any quick shout outs actually before you go?
Yeah, actually. So there's a sick podcast going on right now. It's kind of BM for me to call it out, but twitch.tv/tall and gangly. Go check him out. It's pretty sick. I know it's kind of weird to like shout out different podcasts at the same time. But like honestly, swap off this one, go to that one instead.
Yeah, we here at the Triforce
I'm there.
Podcast
I'm actually watching it right
now. So get out of here, kid. No, but Natures, thank you for coming on. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.
All right. I'm down to just keep.
Can't believe that.
Yeah, I know. Nature's he's the best. I'm down to keep cycling through callers. I know we have a couple people who've just been waiting for a while. So let's go straight into the next one. Lear is here. Lear, where are you calling from?
Calling from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Welcome back to the show, Lear. What do you want to talk about?
So my take, and Ramkev actually kind of alluded to this a bit earlier when he was talking about how there was lots of comps that could beat Nami, but people weren't really playing them and just opting to play Nami. So my take is that I think the frequency of the micro patches, the B patches, the C patches, the regular patches, they don't actually allow for natural meta shaping, and it kind of contributes to like entire regions, at least, I play in NA, opting to just force the broken comp instead of trying to find a comp that's good against the meta and allowing that like shifting of meta to occur naturally, just because they know it'll be nerfed soon. So might as well use it now. It'll get nerfed on the E patch, and then we'll find something new later.
Okay, Ramkev, you go ahead.
I'll go on this. Okay, so I did say, there are counter comps, right? That's part of the game. Nami was not, by far always gonna win the lobby type of comp, but it was a pretty guaranteed top 4. And here's what I will say, right? It's like you can come up with the counter strat, you can come up with the counter meta strat or whatever you want to do, but I don't think that I'm pretty sure that most people are going to play the broken thing because they know it's broken, right? Like, people are, just because people are coming up with counter strats to Nami does not mean that nobody's going to play Nami anymore, because there's still going to be like 3 to 4 Nami players in the lobby because it's so easy to play, right? It stabilizes so quickly. It's sort of similar with like, if I like set 6, the Katarina patch, if I had my say, I would B patch that thing out the window, like into the trash can where it belongs. But but I think that like the most TFT players do not have the time to devote to one, learning the meta comp, then playing the meta comp, then figuring out what counters the meta comp, right? That takes like a lot of thought process. It takes a lot of like experience to do. So I think in that sense, like I still think that B patches are good for the game. I think that it's nice to have something that's not overly centralizing. Like, there like people are going to abuse like another example is like set 4.5 on release. Rakan Elderwood Rakan was the most broken thing.
I forgot
Holy
about that.
shit.
Like, not even like untouchable. You could have an upgraded 4-cost carry. It can't even chunk half the
Don't
health
remind
bar.
me. I don't want to remember.
Like that
I don't.
stuff. There might be something that can beat, like maybe beat that, maybe even consistently
Yeah,
beat that.
but when something is like blatantly overtuned,
Yeah,
like
you-
you need to
they
be patched.
still
Like
need to
Nami was
be
not
patched.
within the realm of like something that is normal in the game. It
Yeah.
was definitely blatantly overtuned. Everyone noticed that it was.
Because like
It needed to get be patched.
the thing is, like Nami 2, especially in this scenario, if you think about how that comp was being played, right? Like you can hit that comp guaranteed on level 6. It's not even like you're
Every
taking a risk. You don't have to open for it. You don't have to do anything. You need one item, which is an Archangel's, and then you put everything everywhere else, and it doesn't matter, right?
It was literally like, do you hit Nami 2 or Nami 3 on 3-2? Like that is the question.
that's the difference. But like you're still going top 4, right?
Yeah, it
And
doesn't
that's-
matter. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So like, you know, there are the counter strats are there, but I think that when something is, you know, that blatantly strong, I think that in the end the B patches are still healthy for the game. I think
Agreed.
that, you know, when there's something over centralizing on the meta, that's, I mean, like from a game design perspective, you don't really want to see, you know, 4 different people in a lobby all playing the same comp, all top 4ing with the same comp, right? Because
Yeah.
you know, there may be like one in like maybe half of your games that comp doesn't win, or maybe like half of the people do bot 4, but it's still not a good look. And especially for like, you know, the players learning the game and trying to get into the game, if you just see every single person in your lobby playing Nami, they're probably just going to gravitate towards playing Nami, right? And they don't really have this chance to sort of, you know, find out what they're interested in, find out what they like playing, because everybody else is just playing Nami and they're doing, you know, 6 units, right? So that's 12 damage. No, is it?
Mhm.
No, it's 11. It's 11 damage on 6 units plus the additional 2, right? So you know, if you're taking 13 damage every round to this dumb Nami comp that everybody rolled for on level 6, it's, you know, at least for people coming into the game, they're probably not going to be having a good time unless they also decide, hey, I'll just brain dead force this Nami
Now,
comp, right?
are there examples that anyone can think of comps that were not be patched but then naturally fell out of favor as other things came up in the meta? Because I wish I could think of one off the top of my head. It sounds like we're all kind of in agreement.
I don't think so.
Because I'm just thinking like that would be the answer to this question to me is like, well then, if
Like-
we are B patching too heavily, and maybe the reason that it's like a circular or whatever circular argument where like the reason we're not seeing it is because it's always getting B patched, but like I'm trying to think of broken things that weren't B patched and then we were, you know, up in arms about it later on. Like, wasn't one of the War Weeks not be patched? Or no, were they both be patched?
That was a B patch. War
Both of
Week
them,
was
though?
B- which one are you talking about? Like
well, there was
set-
Shiv, and then there was Runan's Deathblade, right? There was
Runan, so Runan's Deathblade was never B patched, but I think it was also because that version of work wasn't that oppressive.
Oh, I know one. Wait, what about Moonlight Aphelios? Did he ever get nerfed?
I mean, he had to get nerfed.
Yeah, he got like nerfed
He
into the
got nerfed
ground,
into the
right?
ground, yeah.
Oh,
They-
never
no,
mind,
they
never
just
mind, never mind.
slaughtered him.
There was the meme in the 4v4 tourney where like you had to have a
Yeah, everyone had an
player.
Aphelios player. That's right.
Like I think
Oh,
the thing
gotcha,
is
gotcha.
you'll never see a comp that's
Because I suddenly like stopped seeing him in lobbies. I was like, "What the fuck happened to Aphelios?" I was like, "Where'd he go?"
you'll never see
Barely
a
just
comp
nerfed to the
that's
ground, I guess.
very strong in the meta just suddenly become a non-meta comp. You'll see comps
Yeah.
become meta, and partially because they do well into the meta comp, they'll start to be played more. But like, you know, all of these broken comps, like, you know, Blender, Shredder, Zaya, like,
yeah.
it's not like they ever like Void Sins. They need to be patched, otherwise you're just gonna. I think when a ladder is able to sustain a whole bunch of one tricks all playing the same comp, that's when you know, right? That's when you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not okay. We got to do something about this.
Now there are examples. The only thing I can think of, and I don't actually see because I don't know what the Chinese server actually looks like. But I have seen things where like Mortdog will talk about how certain comps that North America and EU think are broken are not valued as highly in Eastern regions. I'm not familiar enough with the region to actually know why that's the case, but I know even this past weekend I saw Tanner post like a tier list where it said that like because he represents the Chinese servers, right? He's from China.
Yeah.
He had Nami in A tier, not S tier, and I don't know if that was a personal tier list or if that was gathered from data in the various Chinese servers.
I mean, if you look at there were only 2 S tier comps in that list. One was Flex.
Nami was not S
One
tier.
was Flex Ao Shen. The other one was Mage Acel. Okay,
so it was
the
more like
Tempest and Mage
Yeah,
Acel
like,
were the 2
it's
S tier
S in the
ones.
sense of like it's cap. I feel like
Yeah, that's the
I think
highest
it's
cap
fair to
board you
say.
could
I think it's fair to say Nami was S in the sense of how consistent it gained you LP.
Yeah.
I think that's like
like
it depends how you define S.
from my perspective, looking in, right, I was looking at the NA leaderboard, and I was looking at players that were doing very, very well. And I was like, oh, I want to look at what comps these people are playing. I look up, for example, Dish Soap, top 4 every single game, a crazy first rate. I was like, let me take a look at what he's playing. It's all fucking Nami. And then I was like, rank 1, Soulless, let's take a look, all fucking Nami. And I was like,
Yeah.
like
It's all Nami, yeah.
when you see something like that, maybe they start playing it less, maybe it starts to get more contested, but when you see something like that, I don't think it's okay to let it sit. It's really not okay to let something like that sit.
No, it's not. It was really smart to like send the micro patch in. I didn't think it would come actually. I thought we would actually have to sit with this patch for like an entire patch. But them sending the micro patch in last second, I was like so relieved. I was like, Mortdog is literally the god of TFT right now. He's our savior. He came in, put this micro patch in, and saved the game. And the game actually feels really good now. It's super playable. Everything feels good. There are some things that feel a little stronger than others, but not to the point, not to the extent where like Nami was, for example.
Is this the best?
But yeah, everything feels good now.
Is this including the micro patch? Is this the best set release patch? I think it might be.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it might be.
It's
Yeah,
pretty good.
Samira was a monster on set 4. Set 5, we had like innovators. When you get the innovator fucking soul on 2-1,
Oh,
it's
I
like,
forgot.
I mean,
yeah,
holy
yeah.
shit,
I forgot
that's
you could get all the innovator stuff in the first augment.
innovator soul on stage
Yeah.
1, and then
Okay,
you get the dragon at 3-1.
Set 6
and then you
release
just
though.
defeat everyone.
Set 6 release, like the fact that Gangplank and MF were like actually the best
Oh,
3
man.
cost units in terms of
Best
like
units in the game.
combat power, not just like the synergy.
Yeah.
That
Wait,
was like
Who was it
terribly
at
unbalanced.
Piltover Cup that went like 1-1-1-1-1 because he hit Mercs every game?
Yeah, it
Who was that? I forget.
They were
Someone
in my lobby actually. It started with like a Covanel, maybe? No.
Yeah, Covanel. No, wait.
Yeah,
No, it wasn't Covanel.
uh,
It wasn't Covanel. I don't think it
some-
was. Oh, I wish I could remember. Oh, Kagaros.
Kagaros, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Jirachi or Riley in chat. Yeah, it was Kagaros who literally went like 1-1-1-1.
Yeah,
I think it was 5
yeah,
out of 6
like-
first or something playing Mercs. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I
But,
remember at the time still thinking though that set 6 had actually been the best like, set release patch. So if that's the
If that's the bar, then
yeah,
I
that's the
think
bar, we're definitely beating it.
because the other thing is like, let's say you like just hypothetically, if for example we had the same tourney schedule that we did at set 6, where this tournament, right, the first big tournament, happens next weekend, and your qualification for that tournament is based off of the results from this past week, and the entirety of those results are based off of this patch where Nami is broken, I feel like it leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Like,
Yeah, it does. It really does.
it really doesn't feel deserved. You can say, oh, it takes work to figure out that Nami is strong. It doesn't take work to figure out that Nami is strong. You get one
Bro, all you need to do is
you
queue
have
up one game.
person
You
figure
see
out
4 of
Nami
them go
is
top
strong,
4.
You look at their
You're
little
so-
chest and you're like, oh, I'll play this garbage. Let me get my free LP. I'll qualify for Piltover
Oh,
Cup Day
man.
2. Easy, in that tournament, I'll just play Nami. Easy. Nami lottery. Let's go on to the next one. Like, that's why I think these patches are necessary. Like, you can come up with a counter
Absolutely.
strat. You can say like, maybe 1 in 3 games I can play the counter strat and I'll do okay. But And at the end of the day, there are still 6 other people in the lobby hard forcing Nami, right? And when that's the case, it's like,
I will say, so the one thing I do want to still say in defense of the take is, I gave the example of Tanner's tier list of Nami. I do remember people explicitly saying that in the Katarina patch of set 6, that China and Korea did not think it was as strong as North America and EU. So I think that there is a potential where maybe it is a cultural thing that North America is more willing and EU is more willing to just take the free LP, and there are fewer players in any given lobby that are more willing to do counter meta comps to prevent these overpowered things from taking over the lobby. That said, I don't think like on a macro level that it is better to not be patched these things, because I would say even for like the lower ranked players, it's just like a quality of life thing. Like when there is an oppressive comp that's easy to play, easy to force, you have inflated ranks, people climbing way faster than they're supposed to, and then especially because you can't demote anymore, I actually feel like it's even more important that you be patched. Yeah, I think of like, what was it? I forget. Oh, it was literally the cat meta. The cat meta probably brought about more Masters players in North America than ever before, and they couldn't demote, and it ruined everybody's MMR.
Everybody's stuck in it. And here's the thing, right? Like, obviously, I know for a fact that Katarina wasn't the strongest comp of that meta. I know this because
not close.
You just think about the other strong comp during that patch, and it was Trundle, and Trundle like took a hard like fat dump all over the Katarina board. It was not close.
He destroyed Katarina. It was not close.
But like,
it would still go top 3 every game.
Try to play any other board, right? Like I could have, and this is my anecdotal sort of thing. Is like me thinking that I'm high roll. I have an MF2 with the snipers on my board. I hard position for the Katarina players, and she just runs over you in the front to back. So you just lose to this person that's been open forting the entire game. They rolled down once on 6. They hit Katarina 2, and that's their board. And they beat your like all upgraded front line, all upgraded back line. This unit is worth three halves, 1.5 times the amount that upgraded Katarina is, and I can't do anything. I can't change my positioning. I can't do anything, and it just dies. Right, and that doesn't feel good.
Yeah, I mean, to basically just like sum up the question, I think these micro patches and B patches and C patches and D patches and E patches are like really necessary sometimes. They're very important to the game, to keep the game healthy, to keep the game fun, to keep the balance of the game like good. They're super necessary sometimes, and it is how it's gonna have to be. Unfortunately, for better or worse. I think it's for the better. I'd rather spend 9 hours and 10 hours a day playing a game that's actually balanced, that's actually good, rather than play a game where everyone's like hard forcing Nami and I have to deal with this fucking bullshit. So yeah, I'm very happy that they take the initiative to make these micro patches when needed.
All right, Lear, thanks for bringing that topic in. That was a fun one to talk about. Before you go, is there anything you want to shout out?
Thank you. No, I'll say that I do know that for a few days Tanner had Set reroll in his S tier. That's another one that he's moved down since. Other than that, just shout out to Pants Grab. It's underutilized, underappreciated.
Big agree. Agree. Let's enable it on every channel.
Catch you later, Lear. All right. Looks like we have one more caller in the queue, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring them right in. Broseph is here. Broseph, where are you calling from?
Hello. I'm calling from Toronto, Canada.
Wow, we got a majority Canadian show. Well, welcome to the show. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so the thing I wanted to bring up was just to preface, early set is always like a rush to like figure out what's strong. One of the things I've been doing early this set is like digging really deeply into the stats and figuring out what comps are good through that way. Obviously, there are limitations, like huge limitations of like actually being able to interpret them properly. But I think it's a really good way of figuring out what's good, revealed like Nami and like Twitch to some extent, Sedge. Those are really strong day one. What are your takes on making like significant meta reads based on the stats on like tactics.tools and meta TFT?
Let me see what Lilia's stats are on meta TFT first. And then I can,
don't start this. Okay. I just want to tell all the viewers at home, everyone who's listening in right now, don't listen to this NA propaganda. All right, this guy's selling you Lilia oil. Lilia is not a real comp. It will never be a real comp. It is not a good carry. It is bad.
It's
It is turbo
actually
bad.
pretty middling.
I'm pretty sure.
4.4 average placement. That's not, you know.
Oh my
Uh-oh.
god.
It's
NA
better than
propaganda.
Volibear, better than Set actually. Set is all the way down there, at least on Meta TFT.
No. Set is actual NA propaganda though. that set unit is actually turbo bad. Okay, you don't play that unit unless you hit like 6
Oh
sets
yeah.
on 2-1.
Okay, but like let's say you get
It's-
loaded dice prismatic and you just set
Okay, if you get Think Fast and you get like set 3, Senna 3, and like I don't know, like Shen, and then sure, why not? But like other than that, I would never play that unit. That unit is so turbo bad. Wait, hold on.
Bro, there's like not a
Okay,
single
I blanked
person on
out.
Meta TFT that's building Lilia right. That's the problem. I'm telling you.
No.
True.
No. This is snake oil. This is snake
All right,
oil. Okay,
you guys let
basically,
me
to
know when
answer your
I'm
question-
challenger and you are coming to me for coaching.
No,
I'll teach you the
it's,
way. Don't you worry.
You're smoking hella copium right now. Okay. To answer your question, for me personally, I like to stay away from stats for as long as possible and just find out shit my own way, just by like playing and gaming and getting a feel for the units. Eventually, I'll take a look at the stats to see like what's doing really well, what's not doing too well. But I always like to get a feel myself because I feel like my playstyle is very different than most people on ladder and in TFT in general. I like to slam a lot of items early. I like to play tempo into like late game. Usually my mid game boards look really weird. You look at my board, you're like, what the fuck is he doing with this? And then I just suddenly transition into like the most cap board you ever see. And it's like, that's usually my playstyle is just like tempo into like end game. So like a lot of like stats don't really give you the full picture of what you should be playing early, mid, and late. It's just what wins games. These are the stats. And it's really hard to like determine how to get there. So you need to get a feel for the set. You need to get a feel for like how to play units, how to play items.
Yeah.
Like in regards to like how to get to the end game.
Yeah,
What's your
I
take,
think
Ramkev?
that like so I agree, like, you know, I'm looking at far less stats right now than I was like in set 6. And I think I tend to like to use the stats for like more micro decisions, like if I have to decide between 2 augments, or if I'm like worried, if I'm not 100% certain on itemization for specific carries, you know, I like to look at the stats for that. I think that they're very useful in a lot of senses. Like, let's say, you know, I have Ludens versus maybe not Ludens, but like, you know, like second wind versus celestial, right? Like those are two pretty similar augments. Let's say they showed up in my augment list, and I was like, well, one is good, the other is also pretty good. I don't really know which one here. Like I can't be certain. You know, sometimes I'll like just open up the stats, see like, because it does help you.
I mean, it also depends like what board you're playing, Ramkev, right? Like if you're playing a bunch of bruisers, you're not gonna take celestial, right? You're just gonna take second win, right?
Yeah. But like,
if you're playing like a lot of like carries with like items and stuff, it's probably celestial.
yeah, I personally like I have actually stopped looking at the augment stats, at least for this specific, like at the beginning of the set. I don't know if I'm gonna go back to looking at them later or not, but like I actually want to, you know, look at something, be like, maybe I'll take this, maybe it'll be good, and then you know, this sort of like a conditioning thing. Let's say you like, you know, one you could get potentially wrecked, that is gonna stay up here a lot better than anything
absolutely.
Like a stat site is gonna be able to tell you, or you know, if it goes really well. Obviously, its stats site may show you. Sometimes it doesn't show you that because people are potentially using augments wrong. They're playing units incorrectly. I think it's decent. I mean, like having an early meta read, you can use stat sites, but like you can get sort of similar types of reads just looking off of like LOL chess, for example. If you really wanted to see like what people are really abusing, you can just go click rank 1, for example. And if they're playing some comp more than 30% of their games, then you can be like, oh yeah, you know, this is strong. Like, I did not need to look at a stat site to tell you that Nami is strong. All I had to do is go to the LOL chest and be like, oh yeah.
Dude, I didn't even need to open Loftus. I just needed to boot up a game of TFT, man. Like, that's all I had to fucking do. I just booted up a game, got fucking destroyed by Nami.
You
okay, I guess
can't
the meta
kill a
now.
single unit, and you're like, okay, See you next game.
that's a
Gotta
map.
remember to hold actual units next game. Makes sense.
I think another thing about using stats is like, I mean, people always say like use stats to inform, but not to be the hard and fast rule. I think an example of what that can look like even is if you're using websites like MetaTFT, looking at, because with I know MetaTFT does that. I'm assuming maybe Tactics.tools does it too. You can see for a specific comp what augments have the best average placement for that specific comp. The way I see that is it's valuable to look for patterns in that. And an example, I don't know, let's just say in set 6, this might be true, I have no idea, but let's just say Urgot, any Chemtech Urgot build, so if the best performing augments are things like Thrill and Celestial Blessing, like what that says to me is like, okay, well, this is a comp that needs some sort of lifesteal or can benefit greatly from having 3 offensive plus additional healing. Like clearly the sustain is really important in this build so that you can have increased uptime versus other comps that may be able to survive with like, you know, without like Thrill or Celestial. I'm just saying, I wish I have more examples, but looking for patterns in augments or patterns in itemization is a better way to see it, because at least for me, it helps you expand like that bullseye of what I'm looking for in itemizing this unit instead of just, I need these 3 items and I need this augment and I need this spatula or nothing's going to work out. Like, I think especially for lower elo players, or even actually, I feel like even for like, I mean, for me, I think as a Masters and GM player, it's very easy to get locked into builds and stats instead of allowing them to teach you about how something works.
Yeah, I think like a big thing. I'll say, like another example. Like, I think it's very important to know how to read the data and read the number, because I do think that the stats are still very useful, even for like, especially for players. Actually, I think that, you know, if you sort of shy away from the stats, you're actually like still losing out on a bit of the value. I think that at a certain point in the set, you do want to like look at those things. Like one example, I think, you know, I think Morello in set 6 is like probably the most played item across the board, especially in like 6.5, right? And they had repeatedly nerfed that item, right? And I remember because MetaTFT was still rating that item as S tier. Like, but like when you, so you can take 2 things out of it, and it's a matter of being able to properly read these results and like understand what's happening. Because when I saw that and I looked at the play rate and I looked at the average placement rate, I was like, oh yeah, this item is garbage. You know, it's you know, its rating is being inflated by the fact that people are still so used to slamming this Morello item. What they don't understand is that Sunfire is 10 times better, and that, you know, this item is actually just complete trash. And people are still just building it, and
I think
but like when you can properly
totally agree.
read that, like, you know, that's when you get the most out of it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the takeaway here is never take Cruel Pact, because it's literally a fucking bronze augment.
Oh my god,
that augment
Cruel
is
Pact so
literally
bad.
bronze. It doesn't even belong in silver.
Yeah,
it is literally a tier below silver augment. It is so bad.
That augment
Dude,
is
you
so
are down. You are not down a prismatic. You are griefing yourself by taking that augment. You are -3 prismatics if you take that augment. It's so
Max,
bad.
have you like you go into those lobbies, somebody takes Cruel Pact, they win, like, because like, you know, I'm sure
You win
that
6 in a row for free.
Yeah, you win 6 in a row. You might even win 10 in a row for free, right? But you're still like down 80 health,
You're going 8th.
and you realize in the late game that you're up against 7 other players that have all taken prismatic augments. You don't have a prismatic augment, right? You have
Nope, and you can't level anymore. You can't level either.
level.
You're stuck.
You're
Yeah.
dead.
Okay.
You lose 2 rounds.
Okay, more dog. Okay, listen. This is how you fix this.
Just
Augment, okay, ready, everyone? More dog. Devs, listen. All you gotta do is change Cruel Pact to the way that Think Fast works. So it's only for 1 turn. When you pick up the augment, is when you get to use your health for experience points, and then it goes back to being for gold. And if you do that change, then it actually makes the augment a prismatic augment.
Oh,
It
I
actually
like
starts
that.
to work.
That's
yes.
a great idea.
And then you can actually take this augment and not feel like a piece of shit and feel like you're going fucking fast 8th. Then you can actually use your gold to level after you're done fucking using your HP. So you put in the amount of HP you want to level with, and then you go back to using gold, and then it's perfect. And then it's actually balanced. It's actually good, and it feels amazing. So if they implement that change, I want a 2% cut revenue from all TFT related stuff. Thank you very much.
Makes sense to me.
It's lit.
Broseph, you any
Easy business.
follow-up thoughts?
Yeah, not really. I think they covered pretty much everything. The last thing I will say is, I think the thing on like being able to read the stats and like actually looking at the comps, I definitely think that like credit to like Meta TFT and like Kardax tools for like building their comps. But I think all of them are like really bad to look at. So like if there's anyone in chat, don't go based off of those comps. Like use the stats to inform your choices, and then like look on like Top Challenger to figure out like what people are actually playing.
Is what the board should look like, because there's some really random stuff in there that you're like,
yeah. Like I'm looking at the top comp right now. It's like 4 Swift Shot, triple Zeke's Twitch. What else? Like 4 Bruiser.
Yeah,
and it's a little bit sketchy.
Wait, is Twitch a real comp?
I was trying to figure out.
It's just Swift Shot. It's just.
Oh.
I don't know about. Okay, I don't know, Dax, because I've played Twitch reroll on PvE and that shit does not feel good.
No, it's so bad, dude. It's just a Zaya bot. It's literally just a twin shot bot.
Yeah, like armor shred twin shot bot, because that guy feels.
Yeah,
that little rat feels completely worthless.
Dude, I feel like he takes like 10 billion seconds to just throw his like little potion thing. I was like, dude, just auto attack, please. Holy.
Do you guys know actually what filters Meta TFT and Tactics Tools default to? Like, do they default to Masters and up? 'Cause I feel like if they did, that actually changes things quite a bit.
Diamond like 1 or 2 plus, I think, at least right now.
Okay. That sounds pretty reasonable, actually.
I do think.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I do think there's like a very, very significant difference between what you would probably see for stats like filter just for Challenger and for like Masters even. Like, and they don't really have much of a choice, because if you're just filtering Challenger plus, you have like no data to go based off of pretty much.
So like some augments, like I'm looking at some of this, March has 0 pick rate, which makes sense because that augment is complete dog shit. That is not a prismatic augment. Because
the old iteration was insane though. Like
yeah,
before,
the old iteration felt like
one.
they legitimately took this March augment, right? They said we're gonna like double nerf it, because it used to give you 5 XP and used to get it 1 turn earlier. Right? Now you get it at 2-1, so you're losing out on like at the very start of the round, you're losing out
5
on
gold
like,
for free.
5 gold, and then like another, like, since you're only getting 4, it's like another -1, and it's like ridiculous.
It's not good. You don't take March anymore.
Yeah, March is.
I feel like yeah. Do you take Cluttered Mind? Do you feel like Cluttered Mind is still good?
Cluttered
I feel like
Mind
it's
is
still
good. Like Cluttered Mind
I
is
agree.
like, I think Cluttered Mind is even better than March of Progress. I look at March of Progress and I look at Cluttered Mind, like, why would I not just take Cluttered Mind over this prismatic augment any day of the week, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
This is actually like just a tangent in of itself, and I know we have to wrap up soon, but I actually am curious about how you two feel about the state of combat augments versus econ augments right now, because I feel like we've seen both sides of the coin, where at some points econ was super busted, and then some points where you basically needed to take a combat augment, or it just felt like you were building a garbage board.
Okay, here's my take on augments right now and augment balance. I think augment balance right now is at an all-time high. It's been the best it's ever been. Comparing it to like set 6 and 6.5, it feels so much better now, because I feel like with the reroll button as well, where you can reroll for 1 gold your augments, you actually feel like you're not pigeonholed into like the 3 augments that you have to choose from, and you get another shop, and it feels really good. I feel like the econ augments overall feel really good. I feel like I value them more than most people as well, because I have like a very end game playstyle, and I like to get to my end game as fast as possible and just like shred out boards. But the battle augments also feel really, really good. So I think they're actually pretty balanced in terms of like how much value you're getting out of econ augments and the battle augments. Because end game boards are like really strong, right?
Yeah.
Like you're playing your dragons, you're playing your Yasuos, you're playing your bards. It's really, really balanced. I think it's balanced.
Yeah, I think it's good, and the main thing is, I think they actually took out a bunch of econ augments, right? Like
Yes.
the loot stuff. I mean, the main culprit is the loot stuff, right? Like,
Yeah, the treasure
you want to
troves,
get
yeah.
you want to get econ, like either you have to take one of those like restrictive type augments, like Cluttered Mind, Clear Mind, where it limits your board state, or like a I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie, Cluttered Mind is
Limits?
not really limiting.
Yeah, that cluttered mind is not a limit. That's a fucking collect every pair, get every 2-star in the game. You're fucking big chunk.
Yeah, but like Clear Mind, for example, or like the Revel one where you have to get rockets so you get gold, right? Well, those like the fact that they took out the loot, because before it was so easy to get gold. And I think that was the problem. That's why it felt like econ augments felt necessary, because like in the past set, or in 6, you had like Yordles, you had mercenaries, you had these loot augments, you had hyper roll, you had all like in hyper roll. You have to remember, hyper roll was not a gold augment, right? That was a silver augment.
Oh man, you had like Yordle's calculated loss, and you just have like 70 gold at 3-2.
Yeah, it was so easy to make gold in that set that like I think that's why it felt so necessary, where it felt like if you don't have the econ, or if you're not streaking, you cannot keep up with these other people that just have like 50 gold when you're at 20, right? And I think it's, and maybe we'll run into an issue further down the line. Like, let's say if like legendaries or forecasts become like very pervasively strong in comparison to the rest of the other comps, like reroll, then maybe it becomes like, Dax is saying like he likes to play legendaries, that's why he likes econ. If it becomes the case where, if you don't have a 5-cost or a 4-cost on your board, you just auto lose, the game, then econ is probably going to shoot up in popularity. But I think that like as long as the comps are balanced, as long as the augments aren't overtuned, I feel like it feels a lot better. Yeah.
All right, Broseph, I feel like we kind of ran with your take a little bit.
Oh no, this has been super interesting. Not to worry.
We're gonna wrap up the show in just a minute, so we're gonna send you home. But is there anything you want to shout out before you go?
Yeah, shout out to this podcast, and also Don't Talk If You Don't Know for being like the best place we can nerd about TFT. Appreciate it a lot.
Base.
Thank you.
Absolutely base.
Appreciate that.
Good take.
All right, Broseph, we'll catch you later. Take care.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, I think that about does it. There's still more stuff I wanted to talk about, but I don't want to hold everyone hostage. We'll have to save it for another episode. But again, thank you everyone for coming out and joining us for this episode of High Roll Radio. Ramkev, Kardax, anything you guys want to shout out before you go? Ramkev, you can start.
Yeah, so I'm gonna shout out one Triforce Tactics podcast because Broseph didn't mention it. I'm gonna toss that one in there. It's lit. If you want to just watch some people chilling, it's me, Appies, and Riley. Shout outs to you, Gangly. Shout outs to this podcast for having us on. Shout outs to Dax, my fellow Stimmy bro. Also, I guess shout outs to Alex M because he's not here. Just
hell no, hell no, we're not shouting out Alex M. That guy can stay away from me for the rest of this fucking month. Fuck that shit. Holy. This guy was drama farming on Twitter all day the other day.
I
Jesus. Holy shit. Okay. Okay. I wanna give a shout out to all my fans at home. I love you. Thank you for coming to the stream. I'm Last Kardax. Most people just call me Dax. You can call me whatever you want. Take that how you want. Shout out to Gangly. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for bringing me on here. Ramkev, my Simi bro, I love you. Shout out to all the viewers and all the people who called in. It was really interesting. It was really fun. It was a lot of fun. I love you guys. To all the people who copy pasted the Lilia copy pasta, that was really funny. I love you guys. Keep doing that in every chat that you can. It's hilarious. I love it so much. It's so good.
I'm not gonna lie.
It is horrifying. It actually is scary.
It's hilarious.
Okay, I'm reading it now. This is.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
that's not for on air. That's not on air appropriate. Oh, please stop, chat. Please stop. All right, Ramkev.
For people who are listening in, they're spamming it in the chat right now.
And we won't read a single word of it.
We will not. We cannot utter this. It is not TOS.
All right, well, thank you everyone for watching High Roll Radio. If you want to support the show, make sure you can subscribe on the Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube. You can follow me on TikTok. I've been putting out some Set 7 TikTok guides as well, some short form content. Again, I want to shout out Tactician's Crown #2, the New Jersey LAN event that we're going to be putting it together on July 23rd. You can find more information about it from my Discord. Very, very excited to put this together. We're working really hard behind the scenes to try and make this as epic as possible. So definitely would appreciate the support there. Feel free to ask any questions in my Discord. Again, shout out to Ramkev and Kardax who joined me, especially with all the hot debate going on last week. It was really fun to be able to put this together last second. Also want to shout out my wife, who actually, she's currently sick with COVID and is recovering right now. We all saw her in the pre-show. We all love her. So shout out to Jess. Feel better. We'll catch you soon. But again, this has been High Roll Radio episode number 6. Thank you all for watching. Be good. We'll catch you next time.